So Claire, if you want to come and maybe you can feed in with your point too.
Hi, thanks, Isla. Yes, I was nodding along with Scap, unsurprisingly, when she was discussing how children do not have a sexuality. Children's sexuality is emergent. It is something which is emerging as they progress along a developmental pathway to adulthood. And it is not a fixed, stable idea. So you can't describe a child as having a sexuality. That's a nonsense term. But specifically, paraphilia, which is where you've got sexual drivers that are impeding a kind of normal kind of social and sexual relationships that you might have because of the fixation on non-human partners or partners that are unable to consent or things that are not secondary sexual characteristics of potential partners, or objectifying the individual characteristics. It's something where normal sexual development has gone awry. So we can't say that children are there because they have a developmental potential, which means that if they're having unusual impulses, if they're demonstrating unusual behaviours, if there are safeguarding issues to do with how they are acting out, there is a potential there that we can actually help a child to overcome those issues and progress along a developmental pathway towards a normal adult sexuality. I'm thinking of a very extreme case here. I'm thinking of people like Barbie Kardashian that we've all been aware of. You know, whether or not someone in that situation could ever be supposed to be able to get to a normal point of adult development, I don't know, because sometimes you have these extreme examples where behaviour is so aberrant. It's hard to see how that can be the case, but no matter how difficult behaviours are to manage, no matter how challenging children are, all children should be safeguarded. Behaviours in children are a communication. If a child is demonstrating behaviours which are sexually challenging, it is a communication, as Scap says. Sadly, it's possible that there is some form of abuse in that child's history. There's a famous example, as Scap alluded to, which is talked about in a Stella podcast called A Wider Lens, where she interviewed one of the central sexologists that has promoted this idea of transgenderism, who's called Michael Bailey, and he was interviewed, and he posited the existence of an AGP child, a child that was AGP from about 3 years old. This is a thread that I'm seeing these adult men trying to promote nowadays. It's absolutely not the case that we can assume that when an adult fetishist tells us that a behaviour and a desire was present from the age of 3, that means that a 3-year-old is exhibiting the sexual fetish like adult men do. No, that's not true. It might be part of the fantasy for an adult male that fetish has existed since they were 3, maybe because one of these famous fetishists said something about how he knew he was an AGP because 8 sounded like tights, something like that. Was it?
Yeah,
Was it
8.
Debbie Hayton?
Yeah, 8. Yeah.
You know, it's just absolutely crackers. You can't take an adult male brain and then like time travel back to the time at which they're 3, being interpreted by an adult male fetishist. It's just ridiculous. It's a nonsense. I've got loads more to say about this, but yeah, I've done a bunch of videos on this. They're still on my YouTube I'll drop a couple in. I'll drop the one about Hayton. I think I've dropped the Stella and Mally podcast one. It's worth taking some time out to analyse these things, definitely. Not because we need to understand these men. It's really quite dull. I mean, it's quite easy to understand. Men are frequently driven by their sexual impulses. I mean, look at all of history. It's not that complicated. It's not that fascinating. We don't need to understand it. What we need to do is have very, very firm boundaries and to actually say to these men, no, this far and no further. And I'm afraid that where children are concerned, there's they are going to try and attack us because they want to get to children through us. And it's our job to stand in their way.
Thank you, Claire. I just want to point out to everyone the second item in the